Greetings and welcome to the introduction to astronomy. In this week's exploration of the solar system, we are going to talk about the Yohkoh spacecraft and see what it studied within our solar system. So the Yohkoh spacecraft was launched on August 31st of 1991 by the Japanese Space Agency. Now this was an example of a solar probe, so designed to study the sun like a few others we've looked at recently. And specifically, it was designed to study the sun in X-rays. Now the sun emits most of its light in visible light. However, this was a chance to study it in X-rays, and the sun, some of the hotter regions of the sun do emit amounts of X-rays and allow us to study different portions of the sun. Now the craft was put in a circular orbit and was likely one of the first to use a CCD for X-ray imaging in space. Now its solar studies really were studies of solar flares and studying those, how they changed over the entire solar cycle. So we can see some of that here in a set of images taken by the craft, where we can see this very active sun in the nearer images where it's very intense. There are a lot of X-rays being emitted. So this is a false color X-ray image showing the details of that. And we can see lots of solar flare activity, lots of solar prominences, all sorts of significant activity going on. But as you move around to the earlier images toward the back, you can see that they're very dark. There was not a lot of X-ray activity going on. And that's showing the solar cycle. When the sun was very active, we get a lot of bright X-ray emission. When it's very quiescent, we see very little of the X-ray emission, as we see down toward the back there. Now, it also studied in a couple different types of X-rays. We have what we call soft and hard X-rays, and that really refers to the amount of energy. So lower energy X-rays are soft X-rays, and higher energy are hard X-rays. Just as we have different colors of visible light, there are different types of X-rays. So they're not all X-rays are the same, or the same or the same intensity, same energy. Now we can also take a look here, showing a little more detail, looking at the emission from a solar flare. And we can see the solar flare in the overall image off to the left hand side. And then we can see an enhanced image looking at the interior and kind of mapping out where the magnetic field lines are. And you can see where the energy is released up towards the top. So up towards the upper right portion there, you can see it says energy release site, and that is the area where the energy would have come out, where the solar flare would have broken through the magnetic field and sent material off into space. So this gave us a chance to study the sun in X-rays and learn much more about the solar cycle and the solar flares that affect us here on Earth. Now the end of the spacecraft was actually on September 12th of 2005, and was atmospheric reentry. It actually came back to Earth, burned up in the atmosphere, and came back down to Earth that way. So the end of the mission there, brought back down at the end of its mission after more than a decade of observing the sun. So let's go ahead and finish up here with our summary. And what we've looked at today was the Yohkoh spacecraft, which was launched by the Japanese Space Agency to study the sun in X-rays. It imaged the sun in X-rays using CCD technology, which was relatively new, and it observed solar flares and other solar activity, helping us to see better how those affect us here on Earth. So that concludes this week's exploration of the solar system, talking about the Yohkoh spacecraft. We'll be back again next week for another exploration of the solar system. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.